It's Tuesday, 15th of November, and this is Beautiful Truth, with Fintan Dunne reporting. Folks, what a great day it was yesterday. A terrific day for Biden supporters and a terrific day for Trump supporters. Can't have been both, you say, but no, hold on, it was. Because for Trump supporters, it was the day yesterday, Monday the 14th, when an analysis of voting machines in Michigan showed that they had been set to generate huge error rates, thus facilitating the theft of the election. And that bolsters Trump's case not just in Michigan, but in all the disputed states. And it was also a great day for Biden supporters, curiously, because due to the unrivaled generosity of a UK betting chain called Betfair, Biden backers on that gamble on the outcome of the presidential election, they got their money. Betfair settled the presidential election after the Electoral College announcement. And that mightn't have been the smartest move because of this. What on earth is this, you say? Well, that's you there if you bet on Trump. Because you're still in the game. You see that says behind on the sign, it says Paddy Power, bookmakers. And that's a publicity promotional photo from the outfit behind Betfair. Betfair, you see, is part of Flutter. And Flutter's an international corporate which has brands including Paddy Power, Betfair, PokerStars, Sky Bet, Sportsbet, FoxBet, FanDuel, TVG, and AjarBet. But unfortunately for Paddy Power and Betfair, they made this mistake before, back when Clinton was running against Trump, and they prematurely paid out then. Paddy Power's premature political payout, which is a wonderful PPPPP headline, cost them $4 million. $4 million's chump change. This is going to cost them $1 billion, because there was a $2 billion almost euro book on this bet on Betfair, which has been rolling long, even after, at the election there was only $1 billion on. Another $1 billion has gone on since the election on this bet, and they just paid out everybody who backed Biden. So what if Trump wins? It happened to them before. They did it with Clinton. They paid out and they got burned, and they're going to get burned again. Now, they explained back in the middle of November to MarketWatch that they had to wait for clarity until, potential legal challenges, etc., would be dealt with, and that therefore would put them in a position to settle the market. And that presidential bet, spokesperson admitted, was the biggest political bet of all time on the Betfair exchange. On their own exchange, they elaborated further. They explained that before settling the markets, we must therefore wait for clarity around ongoing vote recounts and potential legal challenges to the results. Yeah, well, why didn't you wait then? Why did you do the same dumb thing you did back when Clinton was running against Trump? Why did you go pay out all those people who backed Biden? Congratulations, guys. I'm glad you got your money. But maybe we'll get our money too if you're like me, someone who backed Trump at 23-1 on Betfair. I did a video about that. You'll find it in my back catalogue on Fintan Dunne on YouTube. So how are you positioned if Flutter Entertainment have to actually pay out $1 billion? Are they resourced to do that? They seem to be. They are an international company traded on the exchange with a market capitalization of $24.56 billion. Lovely. We'll take $1 billion of that, thank you very much. And when I say we, I speak not just for myself, but for the considerable betting action that took place by ordinary people. As reported on Online Gambling, they gave us a Ben Collins tweet where he said, tough day for people who bet a lot of money on Trump winning the election. And indeed, he provides us some sample tweets. One person saying, I placed 100k and they got to pay me if Trump wins, all in caps, exclamation mark. Another comment on Twitter is, Betfair, my life savings has been placed on Trump to win and the votes have not all been counted. So why are you saying I've lost? And please, if you placed a bet via Betfair, you might want to jump in on this. Well, indeed, people did want to jump in on this, and Twitter's afire with people jumping in on this and wondering why Betfair did what they just did. Well, they did it because they forgot all about this. It was 4 years ago. I mean, who can remember that they did this before and lost? So there we have it. And what I'd like to do is take a look at what your legal options are and what your legal position is in relation to Betfair as a result of all this. And we're going to refer to some of the terms and conditions of the bet, which were on the Betfair website. This is that bet. And we have a lot of terms and conditions here. Before getting into those, let me just comment that this is not a contract between two private companies or firms, for example. This is an offer to a consumer by Betfair. So in general terms, if you offer to a consumer a bet to determine who wins the presidential election in the United States, then wins can be interpreted on the plain meaning of that. It means whatever the final outcome is. It means, in essence, legally, I think, that whoever stands on the steps at the Capitol and swears the oath of office. That's who. If an Exocet missile were to strike the Capitol building in the middle of swearing the oath of office, that person would not become president. Only on completion of the oath of office does that individual become legally the president of the United States. And therefore, I think that Betfair are in some serious trouble if Trump becomes president of the United States. So let's just take a look at their terms in any event. They say this market will be settled according to the candidate that has the most projected electoral college votes won at the 2020 presidential election. Any subsequent events, such as fateless elector, will have no effect on the settlement of this market. In the event that no presidential candidate receives a majority of the projected electoral college votes, this market will be settled on the person chosen as president in accordance with the procedures set out in the 12th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Well, now, Betfair, you're sort of, I don't know who legally wrote this for you, but you're actually confounding yourself there, because on the one hand, you're saying it's whoever gets the most projected electoral college votes. And on the other hand, you're referring to further procedures under the 12th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Those procedures take place after the issue of electoral college votes. And there are, of course, disputed states. And there are, of course, multiple slates of electors being sent to Washington. And Betfair, maybe you don't realize this all happened before. Maybe you should check out what happened before, because it did all happen before. It happened in 1876. The disputed election of 1876. Who can forget it? Obviously, Betfair's US lawyers can forget it, because they did. And back then, the electors cast their ballots in state capitals on December the 6th, 1876. Went smoothly, but in 4 capitals, the capitals of South Carolina, Florida, New Orleans, and Louisiana and Oregon, 2 sets of conflicting electors met and voted, so the US Congress received 2 sets of conflicting electoral votes. At this point, Tilden had 184 electoral votes, while Hayes had 165, with 20 votes still disputed. You see, very similar to the situation we have today. Now, this history report on the millercenter.org goes on. The Constitution stipulates that the electoral votes will be directed to the President of the Senate, who was Republican Thomas W. Ferry. Although Republicans argued that he had the right to decide which votes to count, Democrats disagreed and argued that the Democratic majority in Congress should decide. A compromise was reached. And we needn't go into the compromise, because the bottom line is that when there is a dispute between the House and the Senate, and Democrats hold the House and Republicans hold the Senate, we hope, in following the Georgia runoff election, then the issue of which set of electors to pick is determined by the Vice President, who is the President of the Senate. That's his other thing that the Vice President does, is to be the head of the Senate. And in fact, this very scenario was laid out in a thread in the middle of November by Maximus Uncensored at Maximus for EVR, underscore for EVR. And I'll give you the links to all of this stuff in the description that goes with this. But just to quote Maximus there, he explained, November the 13th, the precedent for this is the 1876 election, when SCLAFL and OR each sent competing Dem and Republican electoral votes sealed to the archivist in D.C. On January the 6th, the 12th Amendment to the Constitution specifies that the President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates and votes shall then be counted. That means that in the case of disputes about completing electoral slates, the President of the Senate, Vice President Pence, would appear to have the ultimate authority to decide which to accept and which to reject. This is supported by 3 U.S. Code number 15, hence Trump wins. So that's the process under the 12th Amendment, and that's how it plays out. And that's how it should play out. And referring back to Betfair's statement again, as they say in the second half of the stuff in bold there, in the event no presidential candidate receives a majority, blah, blah, market will be settled, blah, 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 with the procedures set out by the 12th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So, take it out of that, folks. So I think, Betfair, that if Trump wins, then it's, Houston, we got a problem. We got a big problem here. And on 2 grounds, really. First, that a bet means the plain words that it says, whoever wins the election, and these intermediate steps which they're attempting to make the basis of determining who wins really are not relevant. They should have waited. And then the second grounds, of course, is that they actually themselves cite the processes of the 12th Amendment, which is the likely route which Trump is going to take. And you'll notice that that doesn't necessarily involve the Supreme Court at all. It just involves disputing these slates of electors and then having the matter resolved according to the procedures of the 12th Amendment. And if that happens and you backed Trump with Betfair, then you are in the position that this guy here is in. You are still riding a winner and there's nobody else in sight and you're approaching the finishing line. And in particular, I'd love to hear Paddy Power explain to a judge how, yes, they did exactly this back in 2016. And yes, they did have to pay out to people who had backed Trump, despite already having paid out to people who backed Clinton. But, Your Honour, this time it's different. It's different this time. Yes, different, all right. It is. It was only a €4 million mistake the last time. This time it's a €1 billion mistake. All right, that's it for this edition of The Beautiful Truth. I hope you learned a little bit about gambling. I hope if you're someone who has been betting on Trump on Betfair, you learned a little bit about your legal rights. And I hope you also learned a bit about Donald Trump's route to victory, which goes through the houses, that's who, and through the vice president, potentially, with the deciding vote. Just one of many routes. Who knows which route will be chosen? They're fighting on multiple fronts with multiple tactics in play, knowing that some or all of these may not work out. It's not over. It's not even close to being over. And the legendary luck of the Irish appears to have been scorned by a company with Irish roots, Paddy Power and Betfair. May you live to regret it, because I think you will. All right, that's it for this edition. I'll be back with more soon, and I do hope that you can join me for that. But in the meantime, this has been Fintan Dunne reporting.